Hello world and hello amazing Philippines. Good day. Today we're going to discuss the first module of our building and enhancing new literacies across the curriculum. And the title of this module is Introduction to the 21st Century Literacies. Okay, for our learning outcomes, we have of course the following. The first is to describe and differentiated conventional literacy and literacy of the 21st century. The second is listed and explain the three things that have been critical in the rise of the new literacies, narrated and the details about, of course, the 16 skills of the 21st century. And lastly, students, of course, can have acrostic, graphic organizer, and answered, of course, the assessment task designed for this module. This is again Sir A. I would like to remind each, supposing if you are not, of course, not yet, of course, subscribe with my YouTube, you can, of course, subscribe. Don't forget to hit like and, of course, have your comment and do share this video so that, of course, many others can learn from it. Okay. So it is said that when we have, of course, our literacy, not the simplest thing that we can have for the literacy is that being able to read and write. But I have here a quotation for all of you, and it says, "If all children are to learn, okay, all teachers must teach everything." So that's it. There is no exemption from the rule. Okay, that if our students would like to learn something, of course, as teachers, we need to teach as well. So when teaching literacy, of course, this includes working with the words. This is very common. Self-reflected or selected reading, shared, and of course guide the reading and of course writing. So with of course the one that we have, it talks about of course the simplest form, being able to read and write. So that's according to Karen Erickson and of course David Copenhaver. Okay, and we have here the definition of literacy according to UNESCO. It is the ability to identify, understand, interpret, create, communicate, and compute using, of course, printed and written materials associated with varying contexts. So with that, it's actually broader because it does not just probably specify reading and writing. And when we, of course, have literacy as a word, it's the meaning is it's the ability to understand and evaluate meaning through, of course, reading, writing, listening, speaking, viewing, and representing. Take note, okay, these all are the process of how we can be literate. No, we can read. No, it's through reading, writing, listening, and speaking, then viewing and representing. Let's have the etymology of the word literacy. It comes from, of course, the word literate, which first appeared in the 15th century and is term derived from the Latin word literatus. What does this mean? It means, of course, a person marked with letters and that is distinguished or identified with letters. And of course, it carried with it the idea that such a person was being, of course, not a cultured person or an educated person. So it's from, of course, Alata and, of course, Ignacio. We also have, of course, the literacy skills. Okay. And there is the need to continually expand, no? By these and diversify, okay, because our society, okay, is rapidly changing, no? And it talks about, of course, the social and economic environment. And it requires, of course, complete or competence in the range of new communication forms and media. So if you notice, uh, of course, we have now the different media, okay, and different forms in which we can, of course, communicate. And another is we have that literacy competence, and it is central to achievement in all areas of learning. Okay, and it does not just probably focus on today or probably what you can learn, okay, with, of course, the lessons that we have for today, but this can be applied, no, in the middle and later years. and even into, of course, the workforce and, of course, personal life. So that's great, no? When we say, of course, literacy competence, we need to be competent. And there is the word the emergent literacy, which refers to all of the actions, understandings, and misunderstandings of learners engaged in experiences that involve, of course, print creation or use. And these experiences are not only necessary, but of course, closely related to later literacy outcomes. So that's it. And we have also the definition of what is traditional and conventional literacy. So as what I've mentioned in the first probably statement there, okay, literacy, of course, refers to the reading and writing that follow the form, no? Even the content and the use and standards of convention. That's according to Copenhagen. Okay, and it is built rather on discoveries and understandings made during the emergent literacy phase of development. And according to the National Reading Panel Report or the NRP, now in order to produce and understand in conventional literacy, an individual must develop phonemic awareness, even phonics, no, vocabulary fluency, and comprehension of connected texts. Okay, and this conventional literacy requires, of course, the simultaneous and integrated use of these skills, okay, to independently construct a message that can be, of course, accurately interpreted by other conventional leaders. So what's good here is, of course, there is the understanding now when they, of course, interpret, okay, what is written. And there is, of course, the integrated use of the skills that we have, okay. Now let's have, of course, according to Miller, there is the three subcategories now of conventional concept of literacy. So the first is, of course, the basic. From the word basic, literacy is being able to correspond with, of course, the visual shapes to spoken sounds. Okay, in order to be, of course, to decode written materials and translate them into oral language. So that's what the example that we can have is, of course, um, the first time, of course, that we are learning, no? Yeah, sounds, even probably, for example, shapes. Okay, we associate sounds with, of course, the shapes, so like letter A for apple and so on. Okay, then we have, of course, the comprehension literacy, and this talks about, of course, the ability to understand from the word comprehend, no? Comprehension. Okay, that is to comprehend. So there is understanding of the meaning of what is being read. And of course, functional or practical literacy. That's probably among the three, it's the highest, no? And that's probably very necessary to have this functional and practical literacy because there is now the application of this basic literacy and comprehension in our daily lives. And a student is moving, of course, towards a more conventional understanding of literacy if they have, of course, number one is to know most of the letters most of the time. The second is engage actively during, of course, shared reading. I like that one. Okay, then have a means of communication and interaction. And lastly, understand what writing involves. Okay, that writing rather involves letters and words. That's nice. Okay, and we have now the 21st century, no, literacies. Okay, and if you notice, um, it's just not probably focus more on reading and writing, but this is, of course, wider in scope because when we say the literacy in the 21st century, it talks about knowing what to learn or how to learn and know. And there is the utilization of scientific research on cognition and even probably the metacognition, and students need to understand, of course, how the brain creates and uses subjective knowledge and the different processes that create objective knowledge for that matter. Okay, and the psychologists call this holistic understanding as metacognition. And the meaning is that, of course, thinking about thinking and thinking about doing. Okay, such higher order thinking, of course, enables us to better understand ourselves. Okay, both our strengths and limitations. So, as of course, students and soon to be teachers, it's necessary that we need to know our strengths and limitations. Okay, what we are, of course, good at. Okay, and what is not. Okay, which then, of course, enables us to know better and perform better. That's very nice to know better and perform better. The more you know, the more you should perform better. And students need to be able to do, not just, of course, to know. So there is now the application of what we have learned. So that's very nice. Okay, and there are the new literacies, of course, across from the increasing availability of communication technologies that were once, of course, available to individual, okay, or average individual or ordinary person. So we have now the introduction of blogging and or the of vlogging, okay, then social networking and even, of course, text messaging. Okay, change and expand both the extent and the form of our communication. So we now blend text, sound, and images, no, in ways unforeseen and, of course, unprecedented. So that's according to Richardson in 2014. Take note of that, no? Okay. So what's nice is that we can blend these, no, for text, the sound, the image, no, okay, and so on. So that's it. Three rather, text, the sounds, and of course, images. Okay, according to Alata and Ignacio, no, in 2019, they pointed out that there are three things that have been, of course, critical in the rise of the new literacies. The first is, of course, the increased reach. Now, from the word reach, now because we can now communicate with more people, okay, with, of course, the diverse cultures and across vaster distances. So it's very um, nice that we can, of course, widen our, of course, reach. The second is it increases the means of communication. So we're communicating now in more ways and at faster speeds than before, no? Okay, so means of communication. We can have, of course, the chat, even the messages that we have. We can have call, no? Video call, and so on. Even probably emails and many other. Okay, then we have, of course, increased breadth of content. So here we are communicating about more things than than ever before. So that's it. We can now talk a lot of things, okay, and probably discuss, no, with, of course, the different means of communication. So that's it. Again, we have increased reach, increased means of communication, and increased breadth of content. Okay, and there are, of course, benefits of literacy. It's according to literacyworldwide.org. Okay, take action. So the first is, of course, less poverty. So, of course, all of you will, of course, agree that if we are, of course, literate, we can have that less poverty. Now, if all children globally learn to read, of course, 171 million fewer people would live in poverty. That's the population of Spain, Italy, and the UK combined. And of course, lower early mortality rates. So Japan, a country with, of course, a literacy rate of 99%, has the world's lowest infant mortality rate, okay, which is 2 for every 1,000 live births. And during the past 4 decades, no, under 5 child mortality has been reduced by more than half. Okay, it's a fact that can be, of course, attributed to the increase of women's literacy. So take note. Okay, the next is, of course, stronger economies. Now, society recoups, of course, $7.14 for every, of course, $1 invested in adult literacy. And only one extra year of schooling increases an individual's earning by up to, of course, 10%. Take note. Okay, then no country has achieved, of course, continuous and rapid economic growth without at least 40% of adults being able to read and write. So that's, of course, stronger economy. And of course, more community involvement. So literacy program participants in the United States, for example, reported an increase in community participation and were, of course, more likely than non-participants to register to vote. Okay, and participation in adult literacy programs correlates with increased participation in trade unions, community action, and national political life. So, of course, if we are literate, we are more involved with our community, with what's happening with our community. So, all of us have, of course, the share, okay, in our community. And of course, number five is improve personal well-being. I like this one. No? In the United Kingdom, for example, 78% of literate people are satisfied with their lives. Okay, and of course, compared to the 50% of illiterate people. So that's it, no? Um, it's the first probably thing that we need to do when we are, of course, literate. We need to improve our personal well-being. So educated mothers are, of course, 50% more likely to immunize their children than mothers with no schooling. So take note, of course, mothers will know, of course, the advantage of having the immunization process. Okay, and the better older, of course, adults are able to read, understand, and use health and medical information, the happier they are. So that's it. There's the application of what they have learned now. Okay. We have also 16 skills for the 21st century education, and this is divided, no? Okay, into the three subcategories. Okay, we have, of course, the foundational literacies, talks about how students apply core skills to everyday tasks. And we have, of course, the competency skills, no? And it talks about how complex or how students rather approach complex challenges. And lastly, of course, character qualities. Okay, that talks about how students approach their changing environment. Okay, in the foundational literacies, we have, of course, six, namely, of course, literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, the ICT literacy, financial literacy, and lastly, of course, cultural and civic literacy. In the competencies, we have also critical thinking, even problem solving. We have also creativity, communication, and collaboration. And lastly, for our character qualities, we have curiosity, initiative, even persistence or grit, adaptability, leadership, and of course, social and cultural awareness. So these are again, of course, the three no, categories or subcategories of the 21st century skills. Now we have foundational, we have competencies, and of course, character qualities. Let's discuss one by one. So when we say, of course, literacy, no, the skill under, of course, foundational literacies. It talks about being able to read, no, understand, and use written language. We have also numeracy, no, it's the ability to use numbers and even symbols to understand and express quantitative relationship. Okay, and when we say, of course, scientific, there is, of course, scientific knowledge and even principles. So it is made up of process, no? And with the process, we have steps. Okay, and when we say ICT literacy, it's the ability to use and create technology-based content. So including, of course, how to find and share information, even answering questions and interacting with other people in computer programming. Or there is, of course, program for this. Okay, and the most for me the best, no, okay, and probably one of the most important, no, literacy is financial literacy. This is the ability to understand, apply conceptual and numerical aspects of finance in practice, no, probably better ways of spending your money, or probably it talks about savings. And we have also, of course, the cultural and civic literacy that is, of course, able to understand, even appreciate, analyze, and apply knowledge of the humanities. So we need to know what's happening with our culture, with our, of course, civic. Okay, let's have the competencies. So the first is, of course, critical thinking and problem solving. So here it's the ability to identify, even analyze and evaluate situations, no? Or being able, of course, to formulate responses and solutions to our problem. What's important is we need to become critical thinker and, of course, solver. And the next is, of course, creativity. As what I've mentioned, probably during, of course, our introduction of the lesson, I mentioned that as teachers, we need to become creative. So it's the ability to imagine and, of course, devise new, no, innovative ways of addressing problems, answering questions, or expressing meaning through the application that we can have. Okay, and we have, of course, communication. It's the ability to listen to, understand, convey, and of course, contextualize information through verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written, of course, means. And as teachers, we need to collaborate. Okay, there is, of course, collaboration. It's the ability to work in a team towards a common goal, including the ability to prevent and manage conflict. So that's, of course, collaboration. We have also curiosity. It's the ability and desire to ask questions and to demonstrate open-mindedness and inquisitiveness. And of course, it talks about the character qualities being, of course, curious. My question is, are you all curious to know things? Okay, then we have, of course, initiative. It's the ability and desire to proactively undertake a new task or goal. No, it's initiative. We have also persistence or grit. It's the ability to sustain interest and effort and to persevere, okay, to accomplish a task or goal. So persistence and grit. Okay, we have also adaptability, this ability to change plans, no, methods, opinions, or goals in light of new information. Then we have, of course, leadership. Okay, this ability to effectively direct, guide, and inspire others to accomplish a common goal. So that's it. And we have, of course, the social and cultural awareness, which is the ability to interact with other people, no, in a socially, culturally, and ethically appropriate way. So we need to be socially aware of what is happening now with our culture. Other than that, of course, we need to respect. Okay, that's the best probably, no? We need to interact, okay, with people socially, and of course, with that there is, of course, respect. Okay. So there are also ways to support literacy development. Here are, of course, no, the following. Okay. The first is we need to encourage reading because reading is the first pillar of literacy. So encourage, of course, the young, as what I mentioned, your siblings can be the one that you can have, no, for practicing reading. Okay, even probably our family members, no, our niece, our nephews, for example, okay, or the children that you can have near your place, okay. So encourage, of course, young learners to immerse themselves in it frequently and deeply. And this should, of course, involve exposure rather to a broad variety of different genres, okay, such as the newspapers, novels, now comics, magazines, films, reference materials, and even websites. So we need to encourage, of course, our learners to read and then discuss the text together. So actively discussing what has been, of course, read encourages learners to make connections and think deeply about, of course, the ideas contained in text. So you need to follow up the reading and or viewing of the text with a discussion of what it made learners think and feel. Okay, that's number two, discuss text together. Number three is to use games and activities that support literacy development. So you can, of course, have to write a half-page story that makes use of a new and unusual word or phrase. Okay, you can also have to describe a person or object with as many adjectives as you can think of. So this is very nice because the more objectives or the more that can describe a person or an object, the better recall they can have. Okay, the third one is that information scavenger hunt, no? You can score the web, no? With in order to find other facts on a given topic within a set time frames. And you can, of course, recap the plot of a novel or film in your own words. So you can have, of course, summary. Okay, in Tagalog, buo din, no, for example, and have a competition to see who can find as many rhyming words as possible, or starting to from, of course, again, given word. Or another thing that you can do is you can have learners, no, write poems or songs with rhyme, okay, in order to, of course, have an activity for students. Then the number first, of course, make use of the library, like this one, no? Okay, immersing children in a huge range of text encourages, of course, them to dive in and explore. I like that one, to dive in and explore. So there is no better place to do this than, of course, the school or community library. So you can probably remember those days that you're in school, wherein, of course, teachers are requiring you to, of course, have library work. Okay. There are, of course, if you notice, we have, of course, that 16, no? Literacy skills. Okay, but of course, the Semeo Enutech in Gori 21, of course, no, summarize these 21st century literacies. And here it follows. Okay, so the first is, of course, the arts and creativity. And this talks about, of course, creativity and innovation, which are, of course, part of the 21st century skills, okay, particularly in solving problems and creating artworks that are part of this literacy. So, okay, of course, being creative and innovative for that matter, okay, is being elicited by arts and creativity. So as teachers, you need to integrate this arts and creativity na, in your activities, in your, of course, teaching. And we have, of course, eco-literacy, and this talks about acquisition of knowledge about climate change, pollution, the loss of natural habitats, and even biodiversity. Okay, it does not just probably talk about it, but we need to have solutions. Okay, about the environmental problems. Okay, how can we address this one? And probably how can we prepare ourselves, no? Okay, if you notice, just and the other day, we have a first typhoon, and of course, many areas are flooding, no? Okay, in the Philippines. And as teachers, we need also to address this concern. How are we going to integrate eco-literacy in our teaching? Even you're teaching math, for example. Okay, how are you going to integrate? What about English? What about science or Filipino? Okay, and in other subjects, probably. We have also number three, cyber literacy or digital literacy. And the other term for that is information and ICT knowledge. So here, okay, it's being in the rapid changes. Now, the use of technology for teaching and learning. And teachers and learners need to develop and enhance, of course, the use of digital gadgets, whether it's online or offline. So you have now the gadgets, but the question is, how are you going to use it? Okay. So, or as probably teachers, how would you, okay, encourage students to use, okay, digital literacy or cyber literacy, for good? Okay, the next is, of course, financial literacy. It's the basic knowledge about the basics of economics and financial management. Mind you, okay, this literacy is very important for all of us. Okay, will become, of course, you as teacher soon. No, you need to become financially stable. Okay, and this is necessary for every learner and teacher to be able to handle, of course, income, their expenses and investments to be, of course, economically secure. So that's what I've mentioned. Okay. And of course, the fifth is media literacy. Here, teachers and learners must learn how to discern about any information, no, which are transmitted via various forms and media. So it calls for us to become, of course, mapanuri of the information we are taking in. Okay, so we need to filter also information if it is true or not. Okay, and we need to think before we share or click, okay, any information that we can have in the net. Okay, we have also social and emotional literacy. And this talks about, of course, emotional intelligence, no? The EQ, okay, or emotional quotient for that matter. Okay, which we need to develop to be able to effectively manage the stresses, not due to the changing environments of the 21st centuries and society. Do you agree? No, there's a lot of stress or stresses that we can have now. So we need to have knowledge about social dimensions, even social skills that are appropriate in the context of society nowadays. Okay. We have also, of course, the last, because we have only seven, is the globalization and multicultural literacy. Okay, so we need to respect, no? multicultural diversity. As what I mentioned in our class, we are all diverse because we have different origins, we have different probably mindset, perspectives, even social status for that matter, and many more. So we need to be aware of the global trends, know what's happening with our society, with our country, with the world, no? Acknowledge even differences and similarities. I like that one, no? Because we're diverse, we are different. Although we have, of course, similarities. Okay, and of course, respect each other's dignity, no? Okay, there should be always a respect, okay, or respect for others. And even probably, having the respect, you can be kind, okay. Of course, there is peace if there is love, no, being kind, being good. So by having this, of course, you can then be a cultural literate individual. So that's it. Again, according to the 20 the say according to Forsemayo and Tech. So these 16 literacies or skills can be summarized into this. We have the arts and creativity, eco-literacy, cyber literacy or digital literacy, and of course financial literacy. The remaining three are these. We have media literacy, the social emotional literacy, and globalization, and multicultural literacy for that matter. So for that's the end, of course, of our discussion. Here are, of course, our references for you to search, supposing you wanted to, okay, know more about, of course, the topic. So thank you so much. This again, Sir A or Sir Mar or Sir Del saying thank you for listening. And I wish that, of course, you learned something from today's video lecture. Okay, see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay, then like and share and probably leave your comment in this section. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye. Good day.